I'll pass over to Bruce, who's just basically going to give you a quick overview of what the key proposals are.
Afternoon, Your Worship and councillors. I'll just provide a brief summary of the recommendations from the Minister's investigation report. No, sorry. So, as you're aware, the Minister commissioned a report to be undertaken and the proposals that come with it, in particular to change the precinct provisions in the Auckland Unitary Plan under the Eden Park precinct. Can you go back? Sorry, how do you go?
I don't know.
Sorry.
Oh, there we are.
There we go. Sorry, so in effect, the key proposals or key changes that the report outlined was to enable 12 large concerts at 30,000 attendees, 20 medium concerts between 10,000 and 30,000 attendees, and unlimited entertainment events, including music, festivals and concerts for less than 10,000 attendees. As you can see there on the right column there, currently the consent provided for last year, I think it was October or December last year, was allowed up to 12 concerts. So when the concerts can occur, proposed under the Minister's report was concerts will be permitted on any day. On the right column there, you can see under the current provisions, there are in effect a suite of respite periods for the community around that area, in particular on Sunday, in a 4-week period, and also at least 1 week in every 35-day period. The length of the concerts would finish by about 11 p.m. and obviously the duration would be extended to about 8 hours, and that would include, I suspect, pack-in and pack-out times as well. Currently, through the resource consent granted last year, they enabled finishing times up to about 11 p.m. Generally on the weekdays in terms of the unitary plan provisions, it should not exceed 5 hours, and Saturday concerts not exceed 6 hours. The community consultation plan and management plan has been going very well between the community and the Eden Park Trust. There's no change to that, and is recommended through the Minister that still be proceeded with and also be undertaken for any future events. Sports games and recreation at night time, particularly on number 1 field. You've got there proposed changes. Night sport games can occur on any day, and most nighttime sports games would have to comply with the noise standards and a likely finish time of around 10:30 p.m. On the right there, you can see again the current provisions. There are no nighttime games allowed on a Sunday currently. No more than 25 nighttime sports games as well within a 12-month period. No more than 4 nighttime games in a 35-day period. And nighttime cricket, no more than 1 within a 12-month period. And also weekday nighttime sports events must commence after 7:30 and finish by 9:30. The noise standards is proposed to have a 3-stage approach to the levels of noise. With everyday events, or everyday activity, should I say, sports and recreation and concerts, and also a suite of changes to the proposed noise limits. Currently, the Eden Park precinct provisions and noise standards that apply to all activities for all activities. The 12 concerts that was granted last year have a slightly different noise standard as conditions of their consent. Another proposal basically is the lighting curfew times proposed to be extended to turn off at 12 midnight. Currently it's at 11 p.m. And the other one, which is a key change, is probably pyrotechnics. Professional fireworks displays extended to include pyrotechnics ancillary to an event with no limits to the number in a 12-month period. And as you can see on the right there, in the current provisions, displays are limited to any 12-month event for pyrotechnic events, and displays should not exceed 15 minutes. There's a suite of restrictions there. That's all I have in terms of the summary of that. In terms of the economic implications, they did provide an economic impact assessment report. I think hopefully most members would have read it, but our council's chief economist has provided some comments on that, and he does have some concerns over the robustness of the economic evidence through the methodology adopted, and he considers that the framework for considering trade-offs should be undertaken with a cost-benefit analysis. The potential environmental effects and negative externalities and associated considerations, obviously noise is a big factor, lighting. Auckland Transport has raised the issue of transport and traffic management and the cost involved with the extended times and periods used for events. And in terms of loss of respite for the neighbours and the cumulative impacts, when you factor in the number of events, particularly the concerts, potentially enabled, plus the sporting events and some of the minor events, in terms of the potential removal of restrictions, then obviously it's quite important to manage the suite of events quite well. So the respite periods would undoubtedly be removed or reduced, and the increase in frequency of events has an impact on this in terms of the cumulative impacts and the exposure of particularly noise to the neighbouring community. Council staff have provided feedback, particularly from Auckland Transport, our resource consents and planning divisions, the chief economist unit, and also the environmental monitoring unit has also provided some feedback. You've heard about from the Albert Eden local board themselves in terms of their views this morning. We haven't consulted with the mana whenua, but due to this really short time frame, but we do note that the Minister has a duty to consult with iwi and hapu before he makes his recommendations or makes his changes. The next steps, as has been outlined previously, the Council is required to provide to the Minister by 4 p.m. tomorrow Council feedback, and that's 20 working days from the 3rd of November. And then obviously the Minister must consider any response by the local authority and when deciding whether to make any changes to the regulations. He also must have a duty to consult, obviously, with any party likely to be affected. That, in a summary, is what is the outline in terms of the issues. Happy to take a few questions or just go straight to them.
Thank you, Bruce. Are there any questions? And just to let you know, I've offered, so originally Nick said he was fine not to speak, but he would like to, so we'll have questions of the officers first, and then if there's questions of Nick to come, I'll get him to come up as well. Councillor Newman, sorry, is that the first person? Councillor Newman.
Great, thank you. Look, I've tried to get my head around the insight report that was provided, which I thought was pretty robust, actually. So when you're referring to you've some concerns about the analysis, what would those concerns be? Because I don't feel very concerned by by the report in relation to the supply chain contribution that Eden Park's event offering offers to the Auckland economy.
Are you talking about the economic, in terms of the economic?
I'm trying to respond to you made a remark there in relation to some concern in relation to the ministry's reporting, or look, can you just give some insight as to where you might feel that the analysis might be falling short?
I think you're probably referring to my comment about the robustness of the economic evidence, is that right? Yeah, so I'm not the economic expert. I mean, we do have Gary Slick here from the Chief Economist Unit. He can provide a more detailed analysis or comment on that, if that's okay.
Through the chair, thank you, Councillor, for your question. I think it's a good one. I think you're referring to the Insight report has an appendix that provides economic evidence, and the analysis uses spending. The analysis uses data on spending. I'm sorry, I'll speak closer. I think you're referring to the Insight report, the investigation report that has an appendix that includes an economic analysis using data on spending associated with the events, and it's termed in the report as a change in activity, and that can be beneficial for the economy. And I think there's good reason to believe that it would be, but it's not quite the same as saying there's an economic benefit as such. The economic benefit would really be the increase in profitability to businesses, and we would typically look at that alongside the costs involved to get a sense of net benefit to Auckland. So that was really what the comment related to.
Okay, look, I've got some questions probably for Nick if he's available to take some, and then I'll comment later. Thank you.
Yep. Questions for officers? Is that? Sorry, I don't have. Oh, Councillor Patterson-Hamlin, sorry.
Kia ora. I have what I'm hoping is a fairly straightforward question. The three-stage approach for noise standards to distinguish between suitable levels, etc. Are those three stages based on the type of event or the anticipated decibels?
I think it's both, as I understand it from our comments from from our noise expert. I'll just find it.
While you're looking for it, the logic behind asking that question is that, you know, I'm aware that on paper a kids concert might seem like it would be quieter than a cricket game, but I've definitely been to Wiggles concerts that are a lot louder than a test match. So it's, I'm glad that the answer is both.
Yeah, so basically our noise expert has some concerns about the three-stage tier approach, and in his advice is appended to the report, he thought this assessment was a bit insufficient, if that's was his words. So he was concerned that obviously the level of the noise, the frequency of events, and the duration are the most important factors at Eden Park, and there has to be probably a better alignment with the type of activities with the noise, and obviously because the time frame allowed for this particular process is probably insufficient at this stage.
Finished, Councillor. Deputy Mayor.
Yes, I just want to confirm in the tabled attachment F, retention of traffic management plans for events over 5,000 and the integrated ticketing over 5,000, because it doesn't apply to Spark Arena, Mount Smart, Western Springs, North Harbour, you're amending that, is that correct?
Sorry, Councillor, which appendix? Sorry.
You're talking about the Chair's recommendations. They haven't seen those.
Sorry.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah, sorry, Bruce. Any questions of the staff on the report?
Excuse Chair, are you amending 5,000?
Yeah, so the These
Okay,
are
I'll do it
questions
later.
of the...
Sorry, apologies, I'll take my
Yeah.
question at another time.
Yeah, questions of officers. We've got Councillor Filipaina.
Tēnā koe he mana. Tēnā koe tō katoa to our kaimahi. And is this the time to ask questions in regards to your new recommendations by addition? Or will that be, shall I wait to ask you those?
So these are just questions for officers. And the chair's recs were prepared with the mayor's office and the deputy mayor like yesterday and the day before. And they are just because the recommendations in the report basically didn't say anything. So I'm happy for you to ask questions of officers, but you can also ask questions of me after the officers, but we will just get, yeah. So we're going to go for a quick break because the mayor would like some changes to those, and I want it to be clear at that point that everyone knows what is going up. So we'll have a break and look at what the mayor would like to change.
I'll reserve then my pātai to you, to the mayor's office and to your deputy in regards to these. Just want to acknowledge the staff for the report. So kia ora.
Got a councillor.
Chair, during the break, who should we be talking to around, just so we can understand the options of traffic management plans, because that seems to be an area of interest for us all. Who should we channel those specific questions to so we can do so informally to speed the meeting up?
Is there anyone that could speak to traffic management here?
I can just, in this attachment F, you'll see that there is a transport and traffic management plan, and that kind of picks up on some of the issues that AT finds that they would like addressed if this was to go forward.
Thank you, Celia.
Councillor Gillen.
Thank you. Regarding the noise, which was attachment C, the noise review, could you just speak to that and whether that has been taken into consideration with recommendations, because it seems to me to be quite damning.
Well, the purpose of this report is, the overall report is to just provide the information. We garnered feedback from the Styles Group to provide a high-level comment on the proposed changes put forward by the Minister, investigation report. In terms of actual detail, realistically, I mean, it would normally go through a robust process through particularly a plan change or review, where we would tease out the costs and benefits, as well as undertaking the Section 32 analysis to determine the appropriate levels and the like. So the report itself is from Styles Group is a high-level review of the proposed standards. It isn't a real detail.
Okay, so you're not making a recommendation, you've just presented the information to us to make a recommendation. So I'll refer that question later on to the chair. So once this committee has made its recommendation, you will then be assembling the formal feedback, or will you just be passing on the resolution from today with the attachments, or only with attachments that are included in the motion? How's it actually going to go from here?
I can take that. So there will be a letter prepared to the Minister responding to the opportunity for feedback. It will include the resolutions from the committee. That is the feedback. The report is on the confidential agenda, so it's not public. So the report itself that you've received won't go to the Minister unless the committee makes a decision to send the report to the Minister. So it would be the resolutions from the committee with a covering letter.
Okay, thank you. That's what I inferred, and I'll have some questions for the chair. Thank you.
Yeah, to be honest, this is not a normal process. This is way faster, and normally we would be asked to submit a submission, but this is not normal process. So whether you are happy with the direction or not, this is very difficult. Like, this is at speed and not a normal way we would be asked to do this type of. This is a new law that allows the minister to change our regulations largely without any consultation, but has been consultation. Yeah. Councillor Fletcher.
No, I'm going to explore the traffic management plan further while you have your break. Thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Other questions, or we've just got Councillor Bartley.
Oh, I just wanted to ask a question, but it was on this in regards to investigate provision of special event buses from the North Shore for events over 30,000 people. Why just the North Shore? Because when I've been at events at Eden Park and you go to catch the buses, a lot of the North Shore ones are empty. And a lot of people have to walk on Sandringham Road to get out south. Anyway, it's not a strategic question, it's just something I was asking.
It was more just because the rail is dealt with.
It's because the chair wants to.
I didn't actually put that recommendation up, but yeah.
Having trouble getting there, are you?
No, I normally catch the train.
So it doesn't need to be specifically mentioning North Shore then?
No, I mean, I didn't put that in the list. It was discussed overall because of the lack of access to rail from the shore. There's no rail on. So we've got rail dealt with under the integrated ticketing, but sometimes buses are not. But like I said, we're going to have it adjournment and take it. This has been a very fast process.
Apologies, I need to clarify my response before. We're in open meeting. The report is on the open agenda. So to Councillor Gillen's question about what feedback will be given, the feedback will be the resolutions, not the report, but just to clarify, we are in open right now, as is the report. Yep. So apologies, I mentioned we're in confidential, we're not.
Councillor Ferry.
Oh, kia ora. I just wanted to explore the noise bit a little bit further because I think it's a little bit confusing, and I just wanted to, because we've got the report from Marshall Day Acoustics that's attached to the insight report, and then we've got the report from I keep wanting to say Harry Styles, but it's not Harry Styles. I'm just going to say Styles. The Styles report seems to say that the Marshall Day report doesn't actually address some of the provisions that are being asked for. So is that that's unhelpful? What is your sort of comment, I guess, on that? Ordinarily we would have, the Marshall Day report might have some stuff that says, this is our view about the noise impacts of these provisions, but we don't have that. We only have the Styles report, so that makes it difficult.
I think the Marshall Day conclusions are inside the insight report, are part of that insight report. What John Styles or our consultant commented on was that it appeared that they hadn't had all of the information in order to come to their conclusions. That was his assessment, but noting that all of this has happened in a really very quick space of time, including for the insight team.
Yep.
I believe they also only had less than 30 days to do all the work that they had to do as well. So it's been a very, very quick process.
Okay, so when the Styles report says the Marshall Day acoustics advice does not address these changes for the number of concerts portion, the concerts for less than 10,000 people, the when and how often concerts occur staff. Well, a number of things. There's a whole list of things. That makes it very difficult for us in terms of thinking about that particular aspect, and that is one of the things that has obviously we're talking about the traffic impact as well, and I think that noise and traffic are kind of the two big impacts I hear about from the community, right? There are others, but those are the biggest. So it's quite difficult for us to weigh this up when we only have the Styles information. Do you have any advice on how we might capture some useful feedback for the minister, given that limitation?
So all the information from the ministers in that insight report, that's all we received.
Okay.
And that's all we've had comments made on. And I think the thing to do with the Styles report is that he was also noting that there was a consenting process for the 12 concerts.
Yeah.
And those 12 concerts in that consent decision noted that the noise limits were at the upper limit. And so what Stiles is saying is that by adding further concerts, and obviously they all come with a certain limit on noise or an amount of noise, that you're starting to go beyond what is beyond those upper limits. So, but he obviously has only been able to look at what has been presented to him through the insight report. We haven't got any further details than that.
Okay, so this one might be more of a sort of a question about how we're framing up our feedback, because this is feedback that we're giving to the minister through their process. The minister will make the decision. We're not the decision makers. We're giving feedback. So I guess I'm thinking about how we best frame up that feedback. And I don't know what changes the mayor's seeking, but I guess a little bit of advice perhaps from, and this might be, I'm looking at John, how we can best frame up our feedback in a way that presents these issues to the minister and has influence on him, not in a dodgy way, in a transparent way, because we're resolving, right? And, you know, best encourages him to look at all this stuff, because I think that's ultimately what we need to achieve here is we're putting in front of him, hey, these are the issues that need to be addressed in the way that you make your decision. So, any advice on how we best frame that up?
Just a brief response, if I may, through the chair. Absolutely, the Stiles report that we commissioned very short time period does identify some gaps in the Marshall Day report, which is part of the Minister's information. And you do have both on the agenda. You have the Marshall Day in the Insight Minister's report. It's an attachment to that report. It's on the agenda, and we have the Stiles report. So at a high level, our acoustic expert is saying that there are some deficiencies with the analysis by Marshall Day to date. It seems from John Stiles that perhaps Marshall Day hasn't conducted a full assessment of the more permissive regime in terms of concerts, number of concerts, frequency, respite between them. So in terms of feedback, the chair's recommendations, as I've seen, do encourage, request that the minister does further consider the impacts of noise on adjacent residents and comes up with a package of provisions that more adequately address those. So I think from what I've seen of the chair's recs, there is a lead in there. The chair's recs aren't calling out any deficiencies in any of the expertise. They're just noting that there is really an important opportunity to further look at how noise might be managed.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Gillen.
Sorry, I was just going to ask, has the consultation results been provided to you, or have you had an indication of what the consultation came back with? That's one referred to in paragraph 17.
No, we haven't seen those consultation results. The minister went out for consultation for 5 days, but we haven't seen that.
Okay, we might just get Gary to step back, and then Nick, if you'd like to come up, and if there's any questions. Kia ora, Nick.
Kia ora, and thank you for your time. I've been listening to the conversation this morning, and the Chair mentioned some donuts and biscuits. So I reached out to one of our local businesses, Bluebell's Cupcakes, and they've, within an hour, delivered some Auckland Council Eden Park cupcakes. So when there is a break, now I must emphasise, Councillor Ferry will never accept a ticket because she thinks I'm bribing her. I've emphasised...
I've never said that, Nick.
No.
Councillor Lee doesn't accept them either.
What I would say is that, as I mentioned earlier this week, that I want to ensure that Eden Park is celebrated, the events held at Eden Park. And I just thought when I was sitting there, I'd list this for councillors before I start. 660, Billy Joel, Ed Sheeran, Pink, Guns N' Roses, Coldplay, Metallica, Luke Combs, Travis Scott, world's largest haka, to Matatini. That has all been delivered since our consent to get concerts. And I think what has been missed today is that this is not about concerts. This is about all activities at Eden Park. And I also heard in the conversation about seawalls, about asset management. Now, each year Eden Park needs to spend $8 million on asset management. At the moment, some of that money has been filtered for resource consent. So I want to just talk as to why we need to simplify, have greater flexibility and remove barriers and costs. So operational restrictions, limiting 25 nighttime events per year. Nighttime is dictated by what time the sun sets. Now, since I've started, women's sport has been recategorised from curtain raisers to equal billing. So if I want to hold men's and women's sport at Eden Park on multiple nights, I then come up against a criteria of no more than 4 nighttime events in a 35-day period. Now, that might mean 1,000 people coming to an NPC game, but then that dictates whether or not I can actually host a women's LPG game. So any daytime activity permitted within 24 hours of a nighttime event? None. So if we hold something on a Friday night, we then can't hold it on a Saturday without amendments. A maximum of 4 concerts permitted within a 4-week period. Again, we have the opportunity to share staging. That means 1 bump in. So why would we restrict having it to 4? No Sunday night concerts. Now this is something that I heard comments made earlier this morning, so I thought I just want to actually deal in facts. So I got out the research from the Eden Park Residents Association, 248 members, and the question was asked, overall, would you support concerts on a Sunday night? 84% submitted in support at the last hearing. So to suggest that the community doesn't support concerts on a Sunday is not factual, and that is evidence that was given in the 2024 hearing, so people can get access to that survey. I also would bring you to the functions limitations that have been talked about, but also concepts that we know that we can develop. There's been much discussion around Big Bash League, NRL Magic Round, Super Rugby, Super Round, triple header weekends involving rugby league, rugby union and football, NRL home away from home fixtures, A-League finals fixtures, domestic content. So I'll come then to the example of the new OFC competition. And the new OFC competition is a competition that is brought to you by FIFA, OFC Pro League 2026. So at this stage, we don't have a consent for these events that have been announced. 7 May, 9 May, 12 May, 24 May. The anticipated attendance is 5,000 for those fixtures. They're double headers, and they give people an opportunity to participate in the FIFA Club Championship. That is a competition that takes people to the global stage. We've had Auckland City participate in that competition previously. What I would also say is that cultural exhibitions, community, so events like Polyfest, Diwali, Te Matatini, as I've mentioned earlier, Fashion Week, exhibitions, large-scale Christmas in the Park, wine festivals, these are all events that we want to hold. And we engage with the community, we engage with all stakeholders to ensure that they are part of the decision-making process. I've heard about Auckland Transport. I think we need to emphasise that the CRL is coming, and with that infrastructure, there will be significant change for our city, positive change for our city. I'll talk to Jehovah's Witness Congress that's in January next year. When we bid for that event, we knew that it was going to be challenging. In January, Auckland Transport has a lot of their staff off. So we work with the CEO to ensure that the 20,000 guests who are attending that event could be accommodated. That event is conservatively estimating 17,631 room nights for our great city. So what I'm wanting to emphasise today to everyone is that this is about flexibility. It's about ensuring that we can have discussions with promoters, with community groups, with events like One Love that is now being cancelled. And Eden Park wants to have a Pacifica and Māori festival at Eden Park. We already have discussions after seeing the popularity of Joss Totofi at the recent League International, but we don't have consent for that currently. So what I would say is that the research is compelling. We've got $1 billion asset that has been underutilised, and I encourage you all to eliminate some of the paperwork that is occurring to ensure that we can actually continue to deliver for our city. Thank you.
Kia ora, Nick. Thank you very much. And I know you meant it in a bit of a joke, but just Councillor Ferry's never ever said tickets are a bribe, and I don't think she takes tickets from any stadium, and she does attend many of your community events and liaison groups. So I just want to say that Councillor Ferry's only said positive things about Eden Park to me ever. So
I apologise, it wasn't intended to offend.
Right. Any questions for, Councillor Foley?
Kia ora, thank you, and thanks for that, Nick, and thanks for all of the work that you and Eden Park do as well in our community. I guess because, the two big things is traffic management and noise. And you did talk about the Metallica concert that was on a Wednesday. Could you just talk about that and what you said about the noise then, and assurances you can give us around, the noise not being as big a factor as perhaps we might think it is? Kia ora.
Thank you for the question, and thank you for your support of the park. In terms of Metallica, I'm only aware of 2 complaints around noise, and that was from residents that were from quite some distance from the park. So I think it's been made known here today that around the perimeter of Eden Park there's an acoustic shell. We now operate in an environment where when acts come to town, they want to ensure that every lyric is heard. It's not the old days of having 37 metres of speakers and trying to blast everyone's ears. So I don't believe that is a consistent piece of feedback we've received throughout. Travis Scott, we had him on stage for just over an hour. Yes, it was loud, but it complied with our noise requirements under council. It's not for me to determine what genre of artists we should have at Eden Park. We're a venue for all in the National Stadium.
Kia ora, thank you. Thanks, Chair.
Councillor Filipaina.
Tēnā koe hea mana, tēnā koe Nick. My question is on number 5 of the... Have you seen the Chair's recommendations for the addition? Oh, okay. You haven't? Kapai.
I gave him the ones to look at that we've got, but I haven't.
Yeah, I just had a question on number 5, but I'll save that because Nick hasn't got...
Nick has seen those ones.
Pardon?
Nick has seen those. Yeah.
Oh,
You've seen that one.
I just got this before the meeting.
yeah.
So
you
yeah,
seen this one?
just before the meeting, yep.
Okay, kapai. That'll cost you a donut. Look, I just wanted to ask, how then will those costs associated to number 5 be borne?
Could you just
Okay, so
clarify?
I've got here that note that any cost arising from extended use and enhanced operational flexibility at Eden Park, such as those costs associated with traffic management plans and additional public transport services, will require additional funding and must not be borne by Auckland Council. What plan have you got in place with the additional cost that may well come depending on the decision?
Well, just historically, the promoter generally picks up the cost, so it's passed on to the promoter, and it is a point of contention on settlement because it's just an additional cost borne. In other cities, a lot of the time that service is provided as part of the overall event service.
Thanks, Councillor. And the Mayor wanted it clearly stated after that a bed tax would help assist with this types of things. And as Nick's saying, in some of those other Australian states, for instance, they put a lot of the state government money or taxes like bed taxes into infrastructure. At the moment, if there's extra, it comes from all ratepayers.
The reason I've asked that question is because we're still in public, and so the community will know at least. Kia ora.
Kia ora. Councillor Burns.
Thank you, Chair. Nick, I'm not sure if you can answer this question personally, but it's just more around the economic data around the 22% growth. I follow quite a lot of economic channels, and the normal growth for hospo and businesses locally in Auckland is 0.7 to 4%. 22% growth is huge. So how's that data analysed? Because most of our local businesses regionally, you know, are depressed, tired and shutting their doors. So economically, 22% is a pretty massive achievement.
Thank you for the question. I'll talk to the Dominion Road Business Association, and through the chair I'd ask if it's possible. We have the chair of the Kingsland Business Association, or the Fringe District, here, and wondered, I know that Claire would be better positioned to answer that question, so I'm happy to do it in terms of Dominion Road first, and then subject to your approval, Chair.
Yeah, if you give Dominion Road, and then it's fairly out of order because it wasn't requested of us to speak, but I will let Claire just answer maybe briefly, but we'll try and keep it tight. Otherwise, we've got a lot of questions as well. So
appreciate it. Thank you. So I did want to just touch on the Dominion Road Business Association. Since 2020, we've worked with them on Purple Flag accreditation. That is to deliver safe service provision across that area. I got a note from the chair or the manager of that association. He said, the event economy, by partnering closely with Eden Park, we have turned 50,000 sports and music fans into our customers. When Coldplay played last November, our dining revenue surged 22%. We proved that with the right management, you can fill a stadium and the high street simultaneously without chaos. So that was the feedback from that association, and that we engage with them around every event held at the park.
Kia ora, I'm Claire Baxter-Cardy. I represent the Fringe District, and we represent Morningside and Kingsland and the area around Eden Park. For us, it's a significant boost to our local economy. We're looking at 400 to 600% increase in the hospitality sector, to the point, like for the All Blacks versus South Africa Test match, for instance, this year, that people were piling out onto the streets. For us, it's hugely important that this happens, and it keeps our doors open and our people happy, and it keeps them reinvesting in our area. That's what's really important to us. We don't just want our businesses to survive, we need them to thrive, and in doing so, that reinvestment is in staff, it's in infrastructure, it's in purchasing buildings. They want to stay in Kingsland and Morningside, they don't want to move elsewhere, and this will help them stay there.
Thanks, Claire. One example I did get sent overnight was a company said, Black Pineapple Co. Metallica last week enabled one of my Kingsland customers to get back on track with overdue bills owed to me. That's how significant a single day of trade can be for these retailers.
Cool. Thank you. We have about 6 questioners. Can we just make sure if you hear your question, be asked and answered? Maybe don't ask it again. Councillor Sayers.
Looking for me in the wrong spot there, Chair. Yeah, good one. Look, first of all, I just want to acknowledge you, Chair, for allowing Nick to come up and talk to us. So thank you very much for that, and thank you, Nick, for being here to take some questions. My question's very financially based, transactional, around $40 million. That's that loan that we've got out. It's only 3 years away now, and it's due to be repaid to us. So logic would tell us that if you can generate more profit, you can actually pay that back. So can you give me a sense, or us a sense, of how that loan repayment's tracking in terms of your reserves, or however you plan to repay that, versus the potential of extra net profit, so you can actually repay that loan? So I'm targeting on that, and I want to know how we get the money back, Nick.
Well, since the Rugby World Cup in 2011, Eden Park has delivered over $1 billion of GDP benefit for Auckland. So the 50 million, most councils around the table understand the history of the 50 million. Eden Park hasn't been in a position to be able to pay off that number. I think it's currently at 48.5 million. What I would say is that with 5 concerts last year, Eden Park delivered a $4.2 million profit. With 1 concert this coming year, we're anticipating a profit of around $200,000. So having the diverse event calendar is material to our financial outcome. I also mentioned earlier this week around the need for asset management and the investment in the asset. For our city to continue to attract these events, we need to be competitive against the east coast of Australia, and that means being able to continually upgrade our facility.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Newman.
Nick, I'm wondering if some of the concern from some is around the event offering as opposed to noise, but noise appears to be emerging as an issue from some. But from my understanding, and just give a little bit of insight here, your 2020 consent that you got required the acoustic barrier. Can you just give a sense of the scale of that? And secondly, have you ever copped an abatement notice for a noise breach?
Thanks for the question, Councillor. So just to answer the last question first, no. The team have been able to comply with all requirements since the consent was granted. The acoustic barrier was in the vicinity of a $7 million investment, and we understand that that was a requirement under the 2011 consent around the Rugby World Cup. It was never implemented. We committed to council, subject to obviously getting the concert consent, that that would be installed. We did it prior to that process to ensure our commitment was guaranteed. The preference now from promoters is a Western End stage, getting up to 65,000 capacity, that then obviously shelters. So we engage with residents even at as high as near the top of Mount Eden, and they said that one promoter who lives up in that vicinity, he said, you really are getting things running so smoothly. I didn't hear Metallica the other night.
Kia ora. Thank you. Councillor Fletcher.
Thank you. In context of the question that I'm going to put to Nick, I just want to say that having worked with David Kennedy as who was an earlier CEO, and having worked with Guy Nata and now yourself, to finally be able to look at some evidence-based on the basis that we're acknowledging the national status of Eden Park and we're not pursuing any pipe dreams of waterfront stadiums for the time being. I just want to know from you how important it is, and you've heard the interest that we have in an economic sense, and it was great to hear from Claire. How important is it that we support this, to Eden Park, acknowledging that there will be trade-offs, that there isn't necessarily going to be a formula that we can just tick a box and say, oh, well, everyone's going to be happy. But can you just speak to the importance of the decision we might take today in terms of what we support and what we don't support?
Thanks for the question. And noting the conversation earlier today about climate change, I would be surprised if anyone would be interested in building a downtown stadium. As far as your comments and questions around Eden Park and the ongoing viability, we're like no other business. They need to consider to change and evolve with needs. So I'm sure this council is considering what impact AI is having. We're seeing the experience economy being a priority. People want to go and experience live events. So we need to be able to provide them with the stage and the platform to be able to experience those events. 70% of today's revenue wasn't part of the business model when I started. So you look at the transformation, you look at there is swings and roundabouts in terms of popularity of sports and the need for us to adapt to new genres. And having the flexibility to be able to do so is going to be critical for us. And that is what this is all about for us. The investigation is to ensure that we have greater flexibility to be able to deliver a diverse range of events for the people of Auckland and New Zealand.
Given the amount of time that you've actually spent to get to the point we are today, are there any areas of advice you would give us to counter the traffic management issues that have been put forward from within the community?
So I mentioned earlier about the CRL, it's going to be transformational. The footbridge that was proposed in 2011 from Eden Park into Kingsland is critical infrastructure, and I do think that that is something that should be prioritised. That would then eliminate the need for the majority of road closures of Sandringham Road. There is also a need to consider resident-only parking on a 7-day-a-week basis. We see in streets like Cromwell as an example. If we were to go to Cromwell today, that street will be parked out by either people who are working in Dominion Road or parking and catching buses into town. On an event day, it's a resident-only parking and the street is vacant. So implementing now the need for a review around resident-only parking, particularly around CRL stations, is critical. And I spoke to a resident in Cromwell the day after Metallica, who mentioned that during the Metallica event, the street was vacant. But the morning of going past her house, people were starting to park there and then commute into town. So there is definitely items within our control. If people are familiar with around the streets of Eden Park, one of the greatest bugbears of residents is the pink signs that get stuck up for every event. There must be a better solution with technology than those signs.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Councillor. Councillor Ferry, and then I've got 2 more questions. We're going to cut off questions there, otherwise we'll be here all day. Councillor Ferry.
Kia ora, thanks. I've just got 2 very quick ones. And really glad to hear you mention the resident parking scheme issue. It's coming up a lot around there. So will the park support, because we've had some problems with AT, accepting the need for a resident parking scheme, would the park support that?
Definitely. Yeah. There is varying views from residents as to whether or not it should be to have visitors having 2 hours, etc. So it needs to be thought through, but there's no question we're seeing more and more people parking and commuting with public transport.
Cool. And the other question I had, which again is very straightforward and it's not meant to be a trap, I have Googled to try and see if you've taken a public position on this, but I couldn't find it. So apologies if you have. Do you support a bed-night levy for Auckland?
The Mayor is very happy that I've said it publicly. Yes, I do.
Great.
Yeah.
Thank you. I just wanted to confirm that. Thanks.
Thanks, Councillor. Councillor Bartley.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I wanted to ask your thoughts, Nick, around what I'm reading in some of these reports about spending versus economic benefit, because it says that the spending is simply shifted from other parts of the economy. But if it wasn't for the events that you were holding at Eden Park, there wouldn't be people in that area to spend. So how is that not economic benefit? That's just my own personal thoughts. I don't follow economic trends or read economic reports, but I do go clubbing in Kingsland. I've gone to Rosanna's, Kingslander, Groove Bar, Portland, and I've gone, thank you, I still go clubbing, and it's empty, yeah, and that's just last weekend, and it's, you know, it's kind of empty, and I don't mind because there's no big crowds, but those businesses, they do mind. And when Eden Park has an event on, it's chock-a-block, so I don't go clubbing when Eden Park has events on. So how is that not economic benefit? Because you're bringing all the people into the area. So anyway, I just wanted to know your thoughts.
Thank you for the question, and I must admit I didn't see you as a clubber in Kingsland, but I now do. As far as the economic benefit, it's pretty straightforward. 70% of people who attended Metallica came from outside of Auckland and New Zealand. I've heard around this table that people around this table have gone to, whether it be Phil Collins in Brisbane, Oasis in Melbourne, Lady Gaga in Australia coming up. These people are earning money in New Zealand and spending it in Australia, the GST revenue alone. And our businesses are missing out on these opportunities. So I find it very difficult that anyone could argue that if an event is not coming to New Zealand, that money is leaking out of our economy. So when you talk to the 3,000 people who work on our event days, I've talked to these stats before, many of them second job. Many of these individuals, it's critical to their family unit to have that shift at Eden Park. And it creates then career paths. A lot of the residents actually, their children or parents actually work at Eden Park also in our retail teams. So all of these factors, yes, there is an economic benefit, there's a social good, but it's a feel-good factor as well. When I drove through Mission Bay the next couple of days after Metallica and seeing people wearing their Metallica t-shirts, that's good for our city. So my final comment is, and it was from a restaurant in Devonport after Billy Joel, they wrote to us to say we had a full restaurant prior to Billy Joel, and then the individuals caught the ferry to Eden Park. So it's not just isolated also to the Kingsland, Dominion Road and Morningside area. It's a halo effect. Newmarket, Westfield often talks about when concerts are on at Eden Park, the halo effect for them in terms of the spending habits. Thank you.
Kia ora, thank you, Councillor. Councillor Winiata.
Yes, thank you, Nick. With respect to tickets to the event, I'd implore as many councillors as possible to go along and see how these events affect the local economy and traffic. One of the things that pained me slightly was seeing Auckland traffic slow down just because of an event in Eden Park. But with respect to the public transport provision that was put on, do you find that acceptable? And is there more that we can do and learn from what was provided?
So I did read the recommendation around, it was under D and E. I do think there needs to be further discussion in the recommendation on that, on the basis that we don't want to disadvantage Eden Park against other venues in Auckland. That being said, we are very conscious that integrated ticketing provides a wonderful solution for event goers. So, but it shouldn't be mandated because otherwise it just imposes another cost on promoters. We advocate for it, but a crowd of up to 5,000, I don't think that is a necessity. I think maybe 10,000 maybe is a more realistic number. We've got to also remember, and 2 points, sorry, if I can make, there were some restrictions on Friday nights and when games could start. When these restrictions were put in place, there wasn't a thing called working from home. So a lot of people on a Friday choose to work from home. So the actual public transport on a Friday is actually quieter than on perhaps some of the other days. And when it also comes to the technology now, tap and go is available to everyone. So there's no reason why they can't use that technology when they're on public transport.
How many sold out events or close to full capacity events have there been since the increase in events allowed at Eden Park?
The reality is that other than the All Blacks and concerts, we don't have sellout events, and that's a real challenge for us. The majority of our events are under 10,000 currently.
So the concerts with the artists that are coming over, they are bringing in...
That's it, yeah. So concerts, I was talking with the promoter for Metallica, Live Nation. They've brought 4 events to us. All 4 of those artists have sold out all their shows at Eden Park.
Because we can't hold consecutive nights for concerts, do you think that was a decision with Oasis not coming over to Auckland?
I don't want to get in trouble with promoters. They don't like me talking about specific artists, but there's a number of factors considered when determining to come to markets. One is about seed funding, and we've got that addressed with the central government event fund. Other factors include the availability of nights. So we don't want to be in a situation where an artist and a barrier incurs. When we were doing our second consent for concerts, Pearl Jam was held at Mount Smart on a Sunday night. So it's not as though concerts don't happen in Auckland. I've been to Cirque du Soleil at Spark Arena on a Sunday night.
Yeah, I guess with the intensification that's coming, one of the things that I would be loath to see is Eden Park go the way of Western Springs with more sound restrictions and things like that. But looking at sound restrictions, a roof would, I understand, if you're around Spark Arena during a concert, you hear almost nothing. Are we on track to get that in the near future?
We have a proposal to put a roof on Eden Park. Eden Park 2.1 was endorsed by councillors. There's a cost of around 550 million. The first stage is 125 million for the retractable stands and the adaptive reuse of the north stand. If the money was available today, we'd be able to deliver that project in under 5 years.
Thank you. One more question. Did the the number of events that you can hold lead to a restriction on the number of games for the FIFA World Cup that you could have held at Eden Park?
Well, again, that's a great case study whereby we bid for the event without a consent. And if we had gone down the path of requiring a notified consent or an appeal to the Environment Court, we would have needed central government intervention to be able to host the event. So we're fortunate that we were able to get a consent post the announcement and there wasn't any objections. But that is a great example where we had sold out fixture on a Monday night and no complaints.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
Kia ora, Councillor. Last question, Councillor Watson.
Yeah, thanks, Mr. Chair. Nick, in your presentation there, you mentioned the term flexibility, and when I look at this comparison table between the status quo and the proposed amendments, particularly, well, my interest is in the sports, and just how incredibly restrictive it is now, and it doesn't seem to have taken any account of the huge growth in nighttime sport. So the days of Saturday 3 o'clock rugby, they've gone. So, and they don't seem to take account of the fact that some codes over the last few years, NRL for instance, have played on virtually every night of the week. Mondays, Wednesdays, whatever. So when I look at the no more than 25 nighttime sports within 12 months, that's an average of 2 a month. No more than 4 nighttime sports in a 35-day period. You could have 4 in a week if you were attracting essentially 8 codes. We've got rugby, cricket, football and league times 2 because of women's sport. So logistically, the status quo takes no account of this massive growth in codes and in nighttime sports in the last 2 decades, but particularly the last decade. So my question after all that, and particularly if we go ahead with 2.1 that we've endorsed, is you would have a significantly underutilised asset in terms of all those codes and given the potential for them to play on every night of the week, including Sundays.
Thanks for those comments, and it's very accurate. I gave the example of the OFC, a new competition that's playing a number of games in a short window of time in the month of May. If you look at also international cricket tours now, they come in, they play 5 games in often 10 days, and then they go out. So we've got to be in a position to be able to accommodate that flexibility that is required now from all our stakeholders. The other point is to note is that we also want to be holding schoolboy rugby. We see the crowds that we attract with schoolboy rugby, but do you sacrifice an event of schoolboy rugby that we know is not going to generate revenue, but it will generate the next Richie McCaw because of our constraints under our resource consent? So these are the anomalies that the world has changed. Unfortunately, our consenting hasn't.
Sorry, Mr. Chair, just the one final one. I mean, it goes a lot further than an anomaly, doesn't it now? It's actually logistically impossible under the status quo to cater for the sports we have in Auckland and the international trends. And that's just going to become increasingly the case across all of those codes.
We're missing opportunities. That's the reality.
Kia ora. Thank you, Nick, and thank you, councillors, for the questions. I'll move what's up there with the Bachner. We'll go to lunch, actually, because it's 1:00. So we'll come back at 2 p.m. We'll have 40 minutes. There are some sandwiches, I think, next door, but I know some of us go out of the room. We go, and we will get the recs back on your table, on your desks by the end of lunch. Thank you.